Hi, MMC. Reflecting on your tenure, how do you respond to the mayor's statement that your removal was due to fundamental weaknesses in handling the budget processes and the city's financial regression?
No, well, look, igama uNkululeko Sibongo Dunga, there is no honesty with what the mayor would have stated as his reasons. He's actually clutching at straws and looking for something to say. And we say this obviously being informed by the fact that the budget process is a legislated process. And if there are any fundamentals to us not having adhered to those processes, would be non compliance. And we are at this point where the budget has been tabled and approved by council, having met all the legislated processes that emanate. 90 days ago, we tabled a draft budget. After the tabling of the draft budget, we had to obviously take that budget to go to oversight committees, which are Section 79, and that was done. And then we had to undertake a process of public participation, which is in line with the Systems Act. And that's exactly what we did. We went to communities, spoke to them, engaged them. They gave us our inputs. We met with relevant forums, the business forum, the youth, all sectors of society in the composition of what ultimately now then becomes what we then table again to council for approval. And that particular uh, item report that is now before council for approval had to be done within 30 days before the end of the financial year, which was right on the 30th of May. And it considered obviously the views of society, it considered the views of the public participation process as well as Section 79. We tabled it and then it was then rejected, but no reasons were given in terms of the rejection thereof. We learned later on that the very same mayor who is the custodian of the budget was going around telling political parties that they must not adopt the budget. Now, we could not have tabled the item 30 days before, because if we don't do that, then we are no longer in compliance with the MFMA. And that's an argument that we raised in council, and we equally passed, and council acknowledged it. In actual fact, council with some of these political party caucuses said that no, but the mayor was saying that we must not do that. But now here you are as a MMC of finance saying that we have to table so that we meet compliance. There is a disjuncture between yourself and the mayor. We could not speak on what the mayor has spoken of in clandestine meetings with all the other political parties. We can only refer to what is before us. And what was before us was that we had to meet compliance and therefore the item must find expression. What happened today is obviously what we have always firmly believed as the EFF. From the inception of the budget being tabled for consideration, the EFF has always said that they support the budget. And there was no way that we'll come to a different conclusion to say that we don't support the budget now just because the MMC of the EFF has been removed. It can't be. In principle, we tabled the budget, it followed all the processes, and there was nothing wrong for it to find expression, and it is now before council. It was adopted by council. They still can't give you reasons in terms of why they did not accept it 2 weeks ago or even last week.
But has it not been amended?
We did the amendments. We did the amendments on the report based on the submissions that we received from caucuses. Because in the previous council resolution was that let all the caucuses that are represented in council submit their comments regards to the budget so that we can incorporate them into the report. We did that. We did that on Wednesday. We did that on Wednesday morning. We had a mayoral committee which then approved the recommendations. But what we are saying to you is that the recommendations and the comments of the political parties had no material bearing on the budget itself. So Kore, they could have raised those issues even in council. And like they did now, and it's the end of it. It did not necessitate us to having had to go back and redraft a report and come back to council.
Yes, but can you elaborate on the steps you took to or propose to address the city's financial issues during your short time in office? And do you believe these measures were adequate? And if so, why were they not implemented or effective?
Well, of course, we can do much more better. We can always do much more better. What we had to, in the immediate, do is to try and stabilize the city in terms of our revenue base and the protection of the revenue base. What do? We exercise credit control measures. But even in our attempt of credit control measures, we saw a lot of objection, particularly of the DA, who were coming to us and saying that why are we turning off water and electricity towards companies? And these are companies that owe the city of Ekurhuleni in the tune of billions, by the way, and money that we need to exercise service delivery in the city of Ekurhuleni, because in as much as they owe us, they continue to do business, meaning that they continue to make a profit but do not service their debt towards the city of Ekurhuleni. So it has done well, because we are able to raise a significant amount of money that we would then direct towards the payment of service providers, particularly those that were owing beyond the 30 days. You know, when we came in, I think our debt book was sitting at about 7 billion rand or so. We managed to take that down to about 4 billion currently, and a majority of the 4 billion are current is a current debt, meaning that it's within the 30-day period for us to pay. Majority of it also being Eskom, which was standing at about 2.4 billion, that we are now proper with it, and it was about 800 million in terms of rand water, which we have serviced in terms of debt, you know. So those are the two main things that we were able to do. We went in, we amended the indigent policy, where the threshold of houses has moved from 250,000 to 500,000 as a minimum threshold for households to be able to get, or to be deemed as indigent and equally be able to get the social relief packages of the city. We came in and we had a debt rehabilitation scheme, you know, where those who service their debts and they service it unbroken for a period of 12 months, they would then qualify for a 2% discount. And those are just some of the measures that we're able to speak to. They are greater, obviously. By the way, the very same mayor withdrew an item that we wanted to table before council, that us of council to actually consider the prospect of us having independent power producers forming part of the grid and giving us energy, because Eskom is not giving us energy. And the unfortunate part about it is that 40% of our budget is reliant on the sale of electricity. So if we can get electricity outside of Eskom, it's a bonus for us, because it then means that we are able to protect our revenue base. The mayor withdrew that item because he had a personal problem with it. Those are just some of the things that we introduced throughout, and also the engagement with Eskom, to say to Eskom that perhaps the best thing that you can do for us at this moment is to leave the distribution of electricity to the city of Ekurhuleni, because in the areas where Eskom is servicing directly to communities, we're not able to exercise credit control measures, and we're able to continue to have those discussions, but they are obviously ongoing, and those are just some of the measures that we're able to do.
How would you describe your working relationship with the mayor and other members of the mayoral committee? Did any disagreement or differences in vision contribute to your
No, the
removal?
mayor is someone who's obsessed with the sound of his own voice, does not want to listen to reasoning. He thinks that we are probably, even when we are engaged in a collective aspect of leadership, that we take a mandate from Mayor Street, which is an ANC office. We don't. We are members of the executive who are supposed to enhance him even outside of his own political authority. We are not obliged to be political subordinates of the mayor. And that's what he needs to get. He's a narcissist who loves to hear the sound of his own voice. He spends much of the time speaking about himself and speaking more than he is listening. And as a clear example, is one of those reasons why we're saying to you that he was in the objection of us tabling, by the way, a budget report to council within the 30 days before the end of the next financial term. And he objected to that because he did not want the EFF to table the budget. As hence, he stands up and says that I'm being undermined as a mayor, and officials of the city do not listen to me, they listen to you. And for those reasons, I'm going to remove you.
Okay, final one from me. There were speculations that you were intending to go to province. Can you assure us that you still remain a councillor in Ekurhuleni?
I remain a councillor of the EFF in the city of Ekurhuleni. That's where the organization has deployed me. We obviously, all leaders cannot go to the spheres of leadership where they are leaders of, because we need to a certain extent, try and spread ourselves throughout. So the leadership felt that I should come to the city of Ekurhuleni in the caucus and lead the EFF caucus, and that's exactly what we do. We've got the provincial secretary and the deputy chair, which are at the provincial legislature, doing a wonderful job in terms of the marshalling of our members of the provincial legislature. And equally, we've got commissars in other respective parts of the spheres of government, particularly in the city of Johannesburg. We've got Dr. Komisa Nsaku, who's part of the EFF caucus there. The deputy secretary of the EFF in the province is a speaker of council in West Rand, so we can't be concentrated, all of us, in the provincial legislature. Then we leave off all other spheres of government to suffer.
So remaining a councillor in Ekurhuleni, do you still have the appetite to go back to the same position?
Which position is that?
MMC for finance.
We have made our intentions very clear, because our discussions with the ANC was always that we're going to assume 5 political positions in the executive, and we hold through to that goal and that vision, and it remains intact. And we have equally send out that sentiment to the ANC that they must do the honorable thing, because the ANC is extremely unhonorable. They are deceitful, they are liars, they don't hold true to their promises and their engagements. And our engagement continuously has made us reaffirm that analysis. But we're the best people to actually hold them to the fort and to hold them to their word, because we do not mince our words when it comes to them. We say it as it is, so that society and the rest of council and caucuses can genuinely see them for what they are. And perhaps we fall on our own sword on the basis that we are too honest.
Thank you very much, Dunga.
Thank you.